Hey there in YouTube land, and welcome back to my Jarvis Trilogy. This is part 2, so if you're watching this one and you're saying, what are you talking about? You probably missed the first one. And you might want to go back and watch that one first, since, it's the whole start of the Tommy Jarvis thing. We talked about part 4. But now we're going to talk about, actually one of my favorites, a guilty pleasure of mine. It's not so much guilty pleasure anymore, because I just actually out like this film. And that will be part 5. Now, when part 5 was being made originally, they did envision Corey Feldman coming back into the role. However, Corey Feldman's star status had kind of blown up a little bit at that time. He was just about to make a little film called The Goonies. So he unfortunately could not be in the film, or fortunately, depending on how you found the fifth film. But he did come back to shoot a scene. Well, he sort of did. There's an opening sequence with the Corey Feldman in the rain, but it's pretty much done in a backyard. And it's kind of obvious. It's like, when you're watching Jess Franco's version of Count Dracula, and Dracula's in the scene, and Van Helsing is in the same scene, but they're not even in the same actual scene. Actually, in that movie, they're in different parts of the world. Oh, well, it's not so bad in this one, but in this one he is looking at something and hyperventilating, and you're seeing like people dig up Jason's grave, which looks more like the grave of the leprechaun, because it's really not that big of a grave that they're digging up, and it's an unintentionally hilarious sequence, which you get to check out. No, that's the opening, but then you get this like jump thing where basically he wakes up and you see Tommy Jarvis is aged, and he's now actor John Shepherd. And John Shepherd is he went into like I think he quit acting for a bit and went into like basically kind of motivational religious type of stuff, and so he may not have been the proudest of that film at that time, but especially, where he went in two different directions. But I really did like John Shepherd. John Shepherd actually acted in one of my favorite episodes of The Equalizer, where kind of his wife gets raped, and he wants to get revenge. So, really good episode. The Equalizer, underrated show that not a lot of people talk about until inevitably somebody's going to remake it as a movie and really screw it up. But yeah, The Equalizer is pretty much Death Wish TV series, with a little bit of it's Edward Woodward. Back to Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. And it's called A New Beginning for a reason. This movie would end up pissing a lot of people off, and I'm going to let you know why really soon. The movie starts out with kind of like the mask coming out towards the screen thing. Does it? I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I saw the opening part. I usually go to get my tea at around that time, so we're going to say that it does. But I really like this film, actually. I love the cast in this film. I love the way it was done. Ethel's hilarious. Junior's hilarious. They're very over-the-top kind of comical characters. Unfortunately, some of the death sequences in this movie were really trimmed down. And basically, it's because the director, Danny Steinman, wanted to up the ante on the nude sequences in the film. If you're not familiar with the name Danny Steinman, then shame on you, because you really should be, because he did one fantastic exploitation film with Linda Blair called Savage Streets, which everybody should see. And very cool film, and some awesome lines. Danny Steinman, of course, got his start in the adult industry, and he tends to get painted with the brush because of that. And because this movie here has a ton of nudity, and just out of nowhere nudity. But honestly, Steinman did a great job in picking his cast, and it's nudity you want to see. The Friday the 13th Part 5 film is pretty good, but it had one thing that some people got angry about. Lack of Jason. Yep. Even though it says A New Beginning, and even though the last one clearly had Jason dying, for the first time actually really dying, and we clearly saw Tommy go a little batshit crazy at the end of the film. For some reason, I guess maybe people didn't see the fourth one or had been expecting something different. But overall, we get the basis of the story again. What 5 does is takes us back to number 1, except unlike number 1, they actually give us a chance to figure out who the killer is. In this one here, it starts off with a kid who's staying at the at this like psychiatric home, like basically a halfway house for people with for teens with mental issues, and kind of like a segue back into society in this farm area. So he's talking to these girls, and he goes over to this angry guy named Vic, and Vic's probably should have spent a little bit more time in the actual psychiatric facility and probably giving a guy with rage issues and acts not the smartest move you can make. So when they have an argument over the way Vic treats him and treats his candy bar, well, Vic acts as the guy in probably the most horrific murder in any of the Friday the 13th films. Forget the the machetes or the 3D murders or the popping eye out type of thing. No, this action sequence, which you don't actually get to see a lot of, is brutally realistic, and because you can kind of see it happening, and really, really well done. It's the setup for the film. Basically, big spoiler here. If you haven't seen this movie, you're probably not going to want to listen to the next 10 to 15 seconds of this one here. Well, basically, the ambulance attendants come to get the body, and one ambulance attendant seems really, really shocked and glares at the screen. Basically, it's like a big neon light that says, "Look at me, I'm the killer." And yes, it is. It's Roy, the ambulance attendant, that will turn out to be the killer in this film. Now, here's the thing. For some reason, a few people were upset that Jason wasn't the killer. Jason is seen in flashback sequences. Well, it's kind of like the ghost Jason type thing, or the mental image, whatever, of Jason from Tommy's when Tommy's thinking. He actually kind of like sees Jason in the mirror and all this type of thing, showing that Tommy's mental health may just be not as good as it seems at first. And honestly, when we meet Tommy, it doesn't seem that good. But the one thing I have to say here, John Shepherd plays Tommy the way that you would expect a guy who had all this crap happen to him in part 4 would act. He is dark, he's quiet, he's struggling with his sanity, he's having nightmares, he's violent, he's lashing out, and still, all in all, likable. Shepherd pulls off all of this very well, and with very few lines. He actually doesn't talk a lot throughout the film. The basis of the rest of the film is basically Roy dressed up as Jason, and you know it's when it's Roy because it has blue on the mask instead of red. Well, kill people in different, pretty cool ways. You get to meet characters like Ethel and Junior that are kind of like the comic relief, and you get to see that Tommy Jarvis has kind of gone all badass and does a beat up Junior scene with Tommy Jarvis' stunt double. But anyway, it's a really cool film. There's a lot of cool deaths in it. Demon and his girlfriend Reggie the Brave, is that what his name is? It's just really, really well done. I'm not giving a lot of description here like I did with the last one, but basically, psychiatric farm outside of Crystal Lake, we learned that Jason's body has been incinerated, burnt to a crisp, and it's just ashes. Jason's gone, Jason's dead, but somebody's killing these people. There's a couple of hilarious scenes where basically we see somebody trying to fix a car that's broken down, and they look like they've just driven out of the fog from the 50s. The leather outfit kind of made me think either they came from a Happy Days edition or maybe they're cruising. See if you can get that reference. Kills are good. Nudity's good. Tommy Jarvis is played right, and at the end of the movie, we get to see, spoiler alert again, Tommy Jarvis finally take on the killer persona of Jason Voorhees and really just lose it. And it is an effective scene and a great way to end the film. I was very excited about the next installment. I was really looking forward to seeing how Tommy Jarvis had turned, since he's gotten bigger. He's got all this makeup and stuff. He has all these like deep emotional scars. Obviously, he's going to make a great killer for the next Friday the 13th film. He is going to be the ultimate embodiment of what Jason was, and just take a little bit farther. He is, and then the audience got involved. And in my next video, we're going to talk about Jason Lives. And for me right now, it's time to think about what could have been. And it's time for tea.